There's a fear. We speak about Israel and Palestine now. We speak about the story of Israel as a nation. Very controversial and polarizing. Orania grows from 800 hectares to 10,000 hectares. I'm guessing part of the vision to maybe expand, where some people might fear now that, these guys are trying to recolonize South Africa with Orania as a base. I mean, there's the story of Cape Independence now. Do you guys plan to expand?
Yes, we try to expand. We wanna build a home for our people,
Sure.
We wanna build a home for Afrikaners. If 1 million Afrikaners can live here, it would be great for us. Afrikaners needed to move to a place where we can be in our own area a majority.
Yeah.
If you look at Afrikaners as a nation in terms of the bigger South Africa, we're maybe 2 million in terms of a 60 million plus country.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of political influence, but in our own area, we can decide what language do we want in our schools, what religion do we want to practice, and how do we want to do things. That we can only do if we are a majority in our own area.
Joost, thank you so much. I want to go a few steps back. So we go back to the 1940s. Is it 1940s with Sabra?
Sabra was created in 1948.
1948.
Yes.
Sabra was an Afrikaner group, a think tank.
Think tank.
And they were saying to the National Party, which was the government at the time, we don't believe that Afrikaners as a minority should be looking after a majority of people. It's not sustainable. It won't last. So they almost foresaw that this won't last, this system that you have.
Yeah. So you should ask Karel a bit about that. He knows that history very, very well.
Yeah.
But that is in broad terms exactly what happened.
Sure.
They understood, and especially when you go a bit onwards. Sabra was created in 48 and they went through the 50s. The first conference, seminar about own labor practices, which we're going to speak a lot about today, I guess, was in 1956. But especially in the 60s with the winds of change blowing through Africa, right? The famous winds of change speech. A lot happened, and they really realized that, we need to be thinking alternatively.
Yeah.
And the NP didn't want that advice at that stage.
So we go a bit further. The National Party doesn't want to listen because people in power never want to listen, like our government today when we want them. And then 1991, this land comes up. Do you think there was any influence of the end of apartheid, the ANC coming into power, that maybe accelerated the movement of certain Afrikaners being like, what Sabra was foreseeing is happening. So I think this is the time to actually move now.
Well, Penuel, one shouldn't be naive about things like that.
Yeah.
I definitely think that there was an influence in regards to the way. Remember, that was before the referendum of 92. It was before the 94 elections. But surely a lot of people started thinking maybe it's time for alternative. So I'm not naive about that, but still believing that Orania as an idea stands on its own foundation. I can definitely concur and say that there was an influence in terms of the politics in the country.
Karel Boshoff, intellectual. You said Chris Joost.
Dr. Chris Joost. He was, if I recall correctly, he was into sociology.
Okay.
So he and also understand, the migration of people.
Yeah.
And that's why Orania understood that we Afrikaners needed to move to a place where we can be in our own area a majority.
Yeah.
If you look at Afrikaners as a nation in terms of the bigger South Africa, we're maybe 2 million in terms of a 60 million plus country.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of political influence, but in our own area, we can decide what language do we want in our schools, what religion do we want to practice, and how do we want to do things. And that we can only do if we are a majority in our own area. So that's why these people understood those things, and they said, let's move to an area which have almost no inhabitants, which is empty, which is harsh, where people don't want to live, and let's create something there.
So you say initially this town was built so that skilled people could come and help build a dam.
Yes. That's the prehistory of Orania, before it was,
And then it became a ghost town after the dam was built. People moved, etc. The land was left.
Yeah.
How big is this land, and how much was it bought for at the time?
So the town at that stage, I think, was 800 hectares.
800 hectares?
800 hectares.
Okay. A hectare is, they normally say one rugby field or so.
Yeah. 100 meters by 100 meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
800 hectares.
Yeah, 800 hectares. And that was bought for 1,050,000 rands.
1,050,000. This is obviously from Karel Boshoff and Chris Joost. They had money.
They got the money. They went to supporters of this idea, and people chipped in.
It wasn't from their pockets.
It wasn't from their pockets. No. Well, they obviously helped. But everyone gave what they could give. So I'm not sure about specifically how it worked, and people then got shares in the community so they could resell land later on and so on. But for investors at that stage, they didn't make a lot of money. Orania's now worth a lot more with the infrastructure and the development and things that's happening here. But at that stage, people just put in money and they hoped for the best, you know.
There's rumors because if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Karel Boshoff is a doctor?
Professor.
Professor Karel Boshoff is one of the descendants of Verwoerd.
Yes.
So there were rumors that no, this was a Verwoerd project, and Karel Boshoff obviously had the money and he bought this piece of land out of racism, etc. So the first myth, I guess, that's being passed is it wasn't necessarily his money. It was ordinary folk believing in an idea and chipping in.
There you have
You
it,
must
guys.
remember that
Julius
Verwoerd died
Malema
in
is usually
66.
full of these revolutionary speeches.
Long before the,
Sometimes you
let's call
wonder
it the
where he
second
gets them
Orania
from.
realized. Long before.
But whatever the case
So the
is,
66,
we really
76,
hope that his
86,
wisdom
91.
transcends, you know, and really contributes to the development of Africa.
It's quite easy
and in
to
helping
see in
solve
the way that,
Africa's really
especially in the pioneer
myriad
years of Orania,
challenges.
but now
what do you
later
guys
on,
think
the way
about his
people live, they
speech?
live
Share
simple
your
lives.
thoughts
There's not a lot
in
of
the
money
comments.
and riches here.
Yeah.
It's not. If you wanted to make good business, Orania would not have been the place at that stage.
Sure.
It would have been better investments. If they had a lot of money, it would have been better investments just in terms of commercial value. But so no, Professor Karel Boshoff and Dr. Chris Joost and so on, I'm sure they gave what they had, but the money was raised through events and through people chipping in, getting shares. Yeah.
1,050,800 hectares. We fast forward like over 30 years now. Do you have any idea how big the town is now and maybe an estimated worth?
Estimated worth, I won't be able to help you with. It's quite complicated with all the infrastructure, but maybe we should get an economist and try and to put a value on that. But what I can tell you is that it's just shy of 10,000 hectares, depending on what you count.
10,000. So the town has expanded over time.
It's expanded.
The guys have bought more land.
Yes. What happens is people buy more land and then voluntarily make that part of Orania.
Hectic. Okay.
So there's a lot of choices when you move to Orania. How much service delivery do you want? Or do you want to pay more municipal levies and get more services? Or do you want to move into like the more rural parts of Orania, pay very little levies and do all your services yourself, get your own solar power? So it's a bit of options. But if you look at it under an umbrella, it's all part of the Orania, the greater Orania.
Okay.
It's about, I would say, about 10,000 hectares.
10,000. And we can't estimate, but I've driven around here and from 1 million, I'm just thinking, I know some houses here that are worth 1 million on their own. There's a fear. We speak about Israel and Palestine now. We speak about the story of Israel as a nation. Very controversial and polarizing. Orania grows from 800 hectares to 10,000 hectares. I'm guessing part of the vision to maybe expand, where some people might fear now that, these guys are trying to recolonize South Africa with Orania as a base. I mean, there's the story of Cape Independence now. Do you guys plan to expand? How big are you trying to get to? And how do you feel about Cape Independence?
Okay, so firstly, yes, we try to expand. We wanna build a home for our people,
Sure.
We wanna build a home for Afrikaners. If 1 million Afrikaners can live here, it would be great for us.
Sure.
And then we'll have a region where we can make our decisions and do our things. First of all, we have no ambitions to take back in quotation marks, take back South Africa, recolonize. We don't have that aspirations. And I hope some of the conversations that we've had today can prove that.
Yeah.
If we were to try and colonize Orania, it would not have been the way.
Yeah.
I think there would have been ways to do it through the current structures in South Africa, politically, economically, and so on, and via business and things like that. The mere fact that we choose to make things commercially and physically harder for ourselves by doing all our own labor and not misusing anyone else for their labor tells you that we are not on the path of colonization.
Sure.
We don't have such interests. We want a place for ourselves, and we believe our definition of freedom is like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
We believe to be free, no one must rule over you, and also to be free, you must rule over no one. You must not rule over other people's.
Yeah.
That's part of freedom, because when you use people to do your work, or you use them as in the old times as slaves, you become a slave of that, because you need that. You can't go without it.
Sure.
We want to be free of that as Christians and as Oranians.
Yeah. So there you have it, guys. Our African leaders try to do their best, in their speeches, and try to make speeches that actually to show, their efforts in trying to help manage the challenges which Africa is actually facing through and has been facing through since the colonial times. And so we here to really listen to these speeches and to share our thoughts in the comments. And so whatever it is you guys think about these speeches, please do share your thoughts in the comments.
Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.